Pitch or Paul?
That's illegal. Come on.
You've got to answer
that. That's against the rules of this whole show.
You've got to answer
very carefully, though.
Okay. Because Paul asked it and he had the audacity to ask such a question, I'm going for pitch. Review pitch.
Get in there.
Let's go. What's one thing you haven't done yet on your bucket list?
One thing I haven't done. Go deep sea diving.
Nice.
Like Great Barrier Reef, like around that. Yeah.
It's good. What's the one thing that annoys you the most about Paul Drinkle?
Only one. Only one.
When he doesn't serve short in doubles.
Oh. I don't annoy him a lot then, that's obvious.
No, that doesn't happen very often.
Where would you go if you could be invisible for a day?
Be honest. Be honest.
I thought I was going to get away with this. These are tough. I'm going to go to Bailey's house, see what he gets up to.
I wouldn't.
You're in for an experience.
Yeah. I do need a drink, actually. T-shirt or vest?
Vest.
Fish fingers or pineapple fingers?
Gotta be pineapple fingers. Every time.
That was the only grail question, no?
Pineapple fingers without... Pineapple has great benefits, believe me, boys. Numerous benefits. Okay, guys, so let's talk some table tennis, shall we? Because I know me and Dan are dying to kind of pick your brains on this. It's a bit of an age-old question, I suppose. China have dominated now for many, many years in both women's and men's games. I'm kind of keen to know, I think Dan will be keen to know as well. We're both fans of the game. We have our opinions. One thing that I've thought about the stuff that I've seen this week online on different shows is obviously people are talking about things that they know, but you guys have got more of an insight. Why do you think that China is so good? What do you think they do so much better than everybody else?
I think, I've been to China countless occasions, and when you go into the practice hall, I'd say, you see kids of a young age, I'd say 5 years old, maybe some even younger, on the table, actually practicing, normally. I don't think you see that especially in Europe. It's probably more common in Asia. Maybe that's down to a culture kind of thing. Probably in Europe, we don't let our kids go into that environment as young, probably.
Yeah.
And maybe that, if we want to compete with China on a more consistent basis, probably we need to start younger. If one of, me, Paul, Sam or Tom aren't playing very well, we probably know at the end of the day we're not going to get dropped, whereas they need to keep pushing and they need to keep improving, otherwise they could be out. If they have one bad tournament, they could be out of the team.
Yeah, I think what's interesting with that is, as well, for me, is you get that at all levels in China. So even to get into your first practice group at the age of 5, like Liam was saying, you have to be of a certain level. So there's not just kids getting in, messing around and stuff. They're already from that age making sure that people know what they need to do to improve. And I think that's changing more and more now. They're getting more switched on to the smarter training. I think before it was definitely just hours on the table. Whereas now you can see it with the seniors and going down through the younger ages. They're learning a lot from other countries in the specific things on the table. And they're adding that to their hours. So they're sort of developing in their own way as well, to try and make it harder for everybody to catch up. When the women's team lost to Singapore in the World Team Championships final, they had pictures and posters of the Singapore women's team up around the practice hall.
I love that.
Wow.
To remind them of it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's the type of thing that you need. Dan, I think it's, I know through your work with Table Tennis Daily that you managed to somehow get smuggled into the national centre.
Oh, it was the biggest bluff of all
in
time.
China.
The biggest bluff of all time. I shouldn't.
What
have been
did you
allowed
see
in
there that you think that, you know, have you got anything that you could kind of share with us?
They thought they were inviting Wolverine. The guy from X-Men.
That's funny. Yeah, very similar to what Paul said. On the wall, they had all the pictures of which are like their biggest rivals. So Timo Boll was on the wall, and it was like a celebration of when Timo's beating. I think it was when Timo Boll beating Ma Lin at the Qatar Open. It was that fist pump he did. So they had like images around the wall of notable times when Europeans or the rest of the world took out a Chinese player. Michael Mays was on the wall, so obviously that's when he beat Hao Shui.
Hao Shui, yeah.
Yeah, so
it's amazing, isn't it? They can literally single out how many times they've been beaten by a few pictures on the wall.
Pictures on the wall now. He's all over it.
Yeah.
He's wallpapered everywhere.
Pictures there with his celebration. Come on.
Yeah. For me, I don't, Billy, you'll probably know more than me about this, but I think I was ranked number 1 when I was 16 or 17 in England.
Yeah.
And
16.
That, in my mind, that shouldn't happen. You know, people were saying to me, great achievement, Paul. I didn't see it like that. I thought, no, I'm in a place here where, I need to be number 1 at 16 to have any hope in beating the Chinese and beating, it shouldn't. And hopefully that will never happen again in England. I think that'll be a positive.
Well, I think that's a really good point. I think that's a... Sorry, Pitch, go on.
I was going to say, obviously, when I'm a bit younger than Paul.
All right.
No, but when
I'm not going to the island with you now.
Yeah, you will. No, yeah. So when I was coming up, obviously I had Paul to look up to. So we had a centre in Sheffield. I was coming into practice and seeing him, and I don't know how you felt, but it just seemed you're just much better than everybody else, and I don't know if you.
I definitely felt
really
that. No, it was challenging. It certainly was, because I knew I was getting good practice. Jai was there as a good coach, but at the same time, I got offered from Oxenhausen, and I didn't know whether to go or not. But then at the time, it was kind of the system to stay at home. So yeah, it was challenging. But again, there's positives to that as well, like getting used to being expected to set the mark or to do that. You can get positives out of all of that, but I think maybe a bit of a mixture for me would have helped. But I think China, again, they don't get the choice. They're always probably the worst in the hall. Every time they go into that new setup, they're the worst in the hall, and if they don't prove themselves, they're out again.
You would have at that stage not been number 1 in England. You would have been number 4 or 5. You'd have been going to tournaments, sitting on the bench, not competing, not having to win. Learning from these senior players, learning from these experienced pros. How do you prepare? Just kind of soaking up all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas because you were number 1 and so dominant, so young, you had to kind of step up to that mark. And there was a bit of a generational gap in English table tennis. Matthew Syed obviously had stopped and moved on to other things. He was a world-class player. Cookie had obviously stopped. Alex Perry wasn't quite the same level as those two, but still a very good player, but he'd kind of moved on. So there was a bit of a gap, really. So you were the most experienced and the best player at kind of 16.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what you need. I think you there needed, like Pitch came in and had you to shoot at and learn from. You kind of needed the other senior pros. And good players breed good players. And this is why when you look at China, they consistently have that, because they've always got these players there for young players to come up to kind of aspire to be like.
Yeah, I think it can only help. But as I say, I think there's always stuff that could be better for individuals and could be better for nations, if you like. But I think I think that's another mentality in a way. And I think China do it quite well across the board. Not everybody is taking positives from everything. Take positives from the time when Pitch beat Xu Xin. They'll make sure, they'll do everything they can to make sure that doesn't happen again. Yeah.
Obviously,
I think they're all out in Macau now having a big training camp. They just literally ship the whole national team, and it's not just players. They take chefs, they take everything, and they do that quite numerous times throughout the year. Now it's because of coronavirus, but they do it anyway, and they travel around as a whole national team with chefs and everything, and it's a different world in that way.
Don't get me wrong. Like, you boys have made it. Like, mean, it's ridiculous the level you guys have got. Like, you're from the UK. You guys are at the top of the game. You know, and I think that's a remarkable achievement. You know, it shows the UK can do it. It shows there is a system for it. You guys have done it, and it's just about how you replicate that. You know, and
I think it
in Pitchfords.
I think that's the thing. But I mean, I was lucky, obviously, coming through almost with a big club there, and people a lot older than me at a decent level that I was looking up to at that point of view. But I think the players need to. I didn't name you, Bales. You know. No, but I think that's the thing that I think the players need to look at it as well. And it's very easy. I've done it in my career and probably still do to some extent sometimes. But people just, you know, what's not right. Looking at what's not right. Why is that stopping me doing this? Well, what can you do to do that? And I think it's a national mentality in a way as well, in some ways, especially within table tennis. It's not how am I going to do it? Like, I expect them to do it for me, basically. And that's not going to happen. Like, in China, they don't think that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They go and they do the work and they get it done and they get as good as they can. And, you know, if that's not good enough, then that's not good enough. But I think especially when we're talking about the UK, but I think as well in and around Europe, from what I've seen, there's a lot of that goes on. And then you get your people that are 20 years old or 30 years old and I didn't have this opportunity, I didn't have that. And yeah, we all have opportunities that we take. We all have ones that we maybe miss. But at the end of the day, you can only do it for yourself.
What I find is, like, when Liam beat Ma Long or when he beat Xu Xing, like, do you feel like your game is at like absolute maxed out? Like, are you playing your absolute best table tennis?
I think.
Or are you at the level, you know, like, so let's say you played Xu Xing 50 times. What is that?
He's been practicing with me in the practice hall, Danny. So
that's the thing. Paul is so powerful. It's great.
No, I think against Xu Xing I played at a better level than, or I felt I played at a better level than I did when I beat Ma Long.
Mm-hmm. I agree, Pitch.
Your counter topspins you did one counter that was probably the best tailspin shot of all time.
So first set against Xu Xing, I was it probably showed on camera. I was absolutely nervous as hell. I hadn't won a set against him before. Last time I could barely receive a serve.
See, that's it. This is mad. Yeah.
And then second set suddenly. Yeah, I kind of just relaxed.
I actually think I watched that game the other day just kind of prior to this. And I'd seen the highlights before, but I've not watched it in full. And a lot of people were saying, what an amazing match. I actually think the first couple of games were very scrappy. Yeah. I think you were both feeling each other out. He was serving long a bit, you were serving long a bit. It's not like you were both straight away absolutely at it. But I think as the match went on, your level went up and up.
Yeah.
And he wasn't able to kind of do that, which is massive credit to you. But at first, I think it was quite scrappy. But I think that I feel actually that I've seen you play better than that.
Yeah, I think as well, Bears, like
in the World Team Cup.
Like what you said about like holes opening up and stuff. I think had Pitch not have beaten Ma Long before, you know, would you then have gone on to beat Xu Xing? Like it obviously we'll never ever know. But I think, like you said, it opens up that door to when it is 9-0, Xu Xing's playing against Pitch, he knows he's now beaten Ma Long.
Yeah.
He knows he's capable of doing that. Whereas before, maybe if it was 9-0, he's still relaxed, like, it's all right. You know, he's still got to beat my name almost. And I still do think there is an element of that across the board. But I think a lot of the players are losing it, and I think Chinese players know they're losing it. But again, I think they're dealing with it quite well at the moment.
Is there a feeling then, guys, do you think? Paul and Pitch on this one, obviously, has been out there in Europe and playing professional in leagues and knowing a lot of these top kind of players. I like to think the answer is going to be no, but is there a feeling when some teams go to the Worlds that getting to the final is good enough? For Germany, Korea, Japan, for instance, is it final is almost a success? Because China's there, but at least we've got a silver.
I think at the minute, yes.
Yeah.
I think
which is appalling.
I don't think it's necessarily let's go. You know, the final's enough. I think it's sort of, especially for teams like Germany, I think it's like, right, let's get to the final and then we'll reassess and we'll go at China, which again, it's very difficult then to go on and beat them because you're putting them already up there. Now, Bailey, there was a question on there that I thought was quite interesting about can all good players make good coaches? I think it was something along those lines.
Right.
And for me, I think they can. I don't think it means because you're a good player you're going to be a good coach. I think again you have to learn a lot, and I think you learn a lot through your career about coaches and what coaches you would like and what coaches fit well within a team. Because I think like adaptability is one of the biggest traits as a coach, especially if you're a team coach. You can't be like just down that one line and then want every single player to be down that one line, because then you don't have a team of difference. And I think say Germany is a really good example of that. They come through club systems, through different ideas and things, and then come together as one and then have a national coach. But I think if the basics, like we said about the players, are set to go on to coaching, but I think there's still a lot to learn once you've either finished playing or whilst you're still playing, you have to switch your head to learn them things.
Paul's favourite book.
I've got two of them here. Oh, great.
Okay, guys. Thanks for that.
It's been great. See you later.